Andrea Radeck is a badass. She can paint animals with such panache, it's no wonder her work became a smash hit when it was featured in the Secret Lair drop OMG Kitties, and, even cooler, only uses magic as a side gig because she pays her bills with her webcomic Caelum Sky. In fact, we should probably get to that interview right now because I just realized I forgot to pay the electric bills. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay, so I'm obsessed with your radish eater. There's so much information, and I have so much questions. But I guess, I don't want to leave with the usual, but I want to know, because there's not a lot of information out there as far as when did you become aware that art was something that you wanted to pursue as a career? When was the moment of realization for you?
So, I originally went to college to be a veterinarian and a biologist. I had an interest in evolutionary biology, and it was like the one class that would really keep my attention. But um, I would always gauge on how much I liked a subject by how many doodles I had in there. In like the notebooks and the notes that I was taking for it. So like my honors biology, very little doodles. My honors advanced, God, what was it? It was inorganic chemistry, all doodles. I hated inorganic chemistry and stuff. So I realized at a point that I wasn't going to be good for doing veterinary work. It's a really tough job. It takes somebody with a lot more emotional fortitude than I have. I get my parents like
Right.
entirely sheltered me from whenever they put the dogs and stuff that we had down when I was a kid. So
Yeah.
did not have
Yeah.
any sort of but yeah, I did an internship with an emergency vet clinic and in like junior year of high school.
Oh
And
God.
the very
Oh
first
God.
day, the end of the very first day, we had to put down this cat. And it was like a feral cat that hadn't had like an established like territory. So they view it as cruel because like if you put it back out, he's constantly just going to keep getting into more fights and then eventually get killed or injured or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
What they always did was just humanely euthanize him. So they couldn't bring
Yeah.
this cat out, so they euthanized it through the side of the box. So they started, the chemicals and everything working, and then they kind of pulled the cat out, and then it was me just very like crawling up there like just like sobbing.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was so
It's
excited for to be an emergency vet or to be a vet just in general. And yeah, I came home and my mom was like, "Oh, how'd your day go?" I was like, it's just absolutely just wrecked me. So I realized that I also really didn't have the money or the grades for it. So um,
it's tough. It's harder to become a veterinarian than it is to become a proper medical doctor. I
oh
mean,
yeah.
the competition is more intense from what I understand.
It's you do about the same amount of schooling as a doctor plus veterinary school on top of that. And yeah, they definitely want you to be very good at what you do because if you're messing up people's pets and you don't know what you're doing, then you're kind of opening yourself up a lot more for legal troubles and what have you. But so I was kind of realizing in my first year of college that I'm like, man, I do not think I'm going to be good at this. And I realized that art was one of the things that I was always, it would kind of like chill my brain out and stuff. And I later diagnosed with rampant ADHD. So it was one of those things where it was like, this is always what I keep going back to. This is what calms me down, and this is what I enjoy. And then I had a teacher. It was a scuba. I had a scuba class for whatever reason my freshman year of college, and my scuba teacher saw me doodling like sea dragons or something on the back of these notebooks, and they're just absolutely garbage looking sea dragons, like that, like the level you would be at like a 10-year-old. Like I was not good,
Oh,
and he paid me like $100 to do some T-shirt designs for him,
okay. So
and
that's so you're saying that man paid you $100 for absolute garbage? Is that or that man or that woman is
he
that's
made me, his company's name was Keep Bubbling. And that was like your way to like, oh, you gotta keep bubbling. So there were like these just dog shit t-shirts where they were like not anime, yeah, like anime, like sexy mermaids, which I'm not great at drawing people. I've gotten better obviously, but like, ugh, I don't like drawing people. So they were just terrible. He paid me $100 for these like four designs. I'm like, wow, $25 a design. I'm making bank here,
I'm
and
living. Huh?
And I had a friend that also paid me like $50 for me to design a tattoo for her, which also looked just garbage. So yeah, I had both of these people in a very short amount of time frame, do that where it was like, oh wow, you're good at drawing. I'm like, I must be good at drawing. And I cannot stress how incredibly garbage these drawings were.
So essentially, you had the outside world telling you, "Hey, you're not garbage." Do you think you would have realized that you were good at it or that you had an inclination for it had people not given you that positive reinforcement? Would you be sitting there thinking,
Honestly,
"Oh,
I'm not sure because like I think I probably would have gone into this field anyways, because I think like just having some sort of joy from it, I think the positive reinforcements definitely pushed it over the edge where I was like, yeah, I got this. And then I realized that I'm like, oh my God, I don't got this. I am so incredibly far behind everybody else. So I always tell people I really started trying to draw at about 19 and realized I was super far behind. The first college that I went to was good for veterinary school stuff, but not good for art. So, which was Western Illinois University. It's like a nursing school, and I was going early one morning because I went there for another year just for art, which you could only major in just art, which is always just a big red flag. So,
yikes,
um,
yeah,
yeah, no
art."
illustration, no nothing. Yeah, just art in general. So um, I had this experience where there was a bus driver where he saw me getting on with like those big brown portfolios, and he's like, "Oh, you're an artist? I graduated here with as an artist too. There's no jobs out there." And I'm like,
Oh,
I was terrified. I'm like, oh God, I have to get to a better school. So I
oh,
transferred to Northern Illinois University my sophomore year and had to take an extra year because a lot of my classes didn't transfer through. So
right, right. Sucker
yeah,
you there.
no.
You gotta love that. It's like, "Oh, no, that class doesn't count here." It's like,
Yeah,
"Thanks,
no.
okay. How much more do I need to spend? Okay, alright.
Oh, 4 years again. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
cool, alright. I'll just, let me just go find 100,000, we'll be back in a few minutes."
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, northern and western. I was obviously living in Illinois because I'm from Illinois, um, but it was a little bit, it was something my family could thankfully afford, and I'm eternally grateful for that.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
it's kind of the nice part about art is that like northern is a good school for learning your good essentials, your basics, and they let me graduate with a garbage portfolio, but they gave me a lot of good tools to start off. Down a road that would eventually help out, a lot more. So
Do
I always tell
you
people, yeah,
do you
I-
still have any of your quote unquote "garbage" material that we could see? Like, is because I'm curious because I do want to because I know that you can't as an artist, you cannot see your work the way the
Mm,
audience sees it. You know what I mean?
right.
So, I mean, and I don't know. I'm curious to see. I'd be like, is it actual garbage? I'm inclined to think it isn't, but
Think big like hexagonal eyes, like the how to draw anime books, like me, like, oh my God, this is the best way to start, and like
you gotta start somewhere,
daggers
right?
for hair, and oh God. Um, so I actually had a podcast for a while, um,
Yeah.
for a couple years called Fridge Art
Yeah.
that me and my friend Kristen Pluskow would go on there and look at our really old art and just make fun of it
Oh,
mercilessly. And you can still find it on YouTube. I think because we don't do it anymore, but I think when I stopped, we had a solid 275 subscribers. So,
I listened to an episode and I was like,
oh, did
"This is
you?
so it's like listening to a roast of yourself." Like it's
Oh
sort of
yeah.
like where it's like, "Oh my gosh, like they're brutal to it." Like it's I mean, but it's interesting, and I find it interesting because you don't hear that kind of like fun, snappy kind of talk. I mean, I like the self deprecation. I like the the
Mhm.
back and forth, but um, your work is so then how do you become better if you don't have like say if you don't have the you have the quote unquote garbage portfolio and you don't really have anywhere to go? So what next steps do you take that you're, that you go to becoming, more exemplary and getting noticed by actual, real paying gigs
Actual
and
companies, yeah.
yeah.
So I graduated in 2010. Was still had a good bit of the recession and everything. So bus driver wasn't wrong. There are not a ton of jobs and stuff out there for artists, but uh, I had started, a friend of mine was a furry, and then she was telling me that the community was super nice and they were just suspiciously wealthy. You know, they would always be interested in commissioning new pieces for their characters, their personas, and what have you, and that I could, if you're just very upfront with what you are comfortable drawing and what you aren't comfortable with drawing, that they're very accommodating on that type of thing. So me and a couple of my college friends started going to these furry conventions a little bit, and then we were able to sell pretty decently there. And then I started building up a presence online with this community. So
I see.
for about
Okay.
5 or 6 years, I made my living just doing furry commissions. I've
So,
never drawn any NSFW stuff.
oh,
I'm one of the weird furries in there where I even tried to run an auction one time where it was like, hey, listen, I my car broke down. I need like $800, for repairs and what have you. Let's do an auction. This is the only NSFW one I'll ever take, And the person that won the auction, they're like, honey, no, here, just have more money and just draw my character at the beach. Nothing sexual. I'm like, shit, all right.
that's interesting. Wow. Like, can you imagine, like, I mean, I wonder what now, like now, now that you're like really established, you'd be like, all right, this is gonna be it. I'd be like, like the super not safe for work, and they'd be like, here's a new Lamborghini. And you'd be like, okay, okay.
No, I
So
still have a pretty big community and stuff on there. I have some 20,000, 21,000 watchers or whatever on my main furry account. And I still post on there because right now I do a comic all the time. And people on there really like the comic. And,
is it the
it's,
Caelum, am I pronouncing it
yeah,
Caelum
yeah,
Sky?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's like the biggest place that I host the comic and stuff. And then I have it on I have a Comic Fury where we get some, I don't know how many thousands. I think per day it's usually at between 8 to 10,000 roughly on a posting day and stuff. So
And so you gain
decent
this
amount of people.
traction, right, with the furry community,
Hmm.
and then that means, I mean, that makes sense. I guess you get a lot of practice doing the,
Hmm.
anthropomorphic, or even the just regular animal, drawings.
Hmm.
It's interesting looking at your history. I mean, you wanting to become a vet, that had to have, obviously inspired,
Oh yeah, no,
and
no.
I'm curious. It's like, I wonder if you had like an inclination towards, like, say, what if you wanted to be an MD? Maybe you'd be obsessed with drawing humans. Like, you know what I mean? Like an alternate
Hmm.
universe you has, like, whatever you're inspired by when you're young. But so you're starting to get noticed for the animal artwork. Now,
Hmm.
when do you step into the scope of Wizards of the Coast? When does that start to happen?
So I was at home. I had met my friend Kristen and stuff at one of these furry conventions because she and I were both furry artists, and she and I struck up a friendship and stuff online, and we would talk all the time. So eventually, I moved to Roanoke, Virginia, because at the time I was living in Cleveland, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I want to kind of, because I always wanted to do work for Magic, and I had applied to them 6 times in 3 years. You can do it every 6 months, and they kept telling me no, or politely telling me, sorry, if we find something that comes along that fits your deal, we'll let you know. But for right now, keep trying, which is their kind soft no. So
Yeah.
I realized that I wanted to be more around kind of that environment, so I knew a little bit more what was going on. Because like my brother played Magic when I was a kid. I wasn't allowed to play Magic because that was my brother's game, and he's very weirdly possessive about that type of thing. So I watched him play the early game. I also watched him throw away, I think he said 3 Black Lotuses because he said they were a little water damaged, not worth anything anymore.
Oh, damn.
And I told him what a fucking idiot he was recently.
Yikes.
Um,
Yikes. Oh God,
he
that's, and to
he
this
put
day,
it
it's
in
like,
his.
oh,
Yeah.
I
He
held the
said he kept
original.
like the binder in his in like the garage, and it got kind of water damaged and he chucked the whole thing out. I'm like,
Oh,
you fucking idiot.
oh, that's retirement money.
Like, I had some Power 9. I'm like, you absolute fucking idiot. You could have bought a house with your damn money, you fucking. Anyway, so
Oh,
I.
yikes. Yeah, no,
Straightforward with him on that.
I held the
No.
original painting, and right before
Oh,
it was
did you?
sold, yeah, I was sweating like as I held it because it sold for I think 2 million, and
Yeah.
it was, and I was like, "Can somebody take this from me now? I don't want to hold this anymore. I don't think I can afford to hold it." It's a very good jacket, black covering the sweat. Like I wore black because I always wear black because it covers sweat. But so Black Lotus is yikes. It's got does that kind of does it chap his? I mean, obviously besides that, does it chap his ass that you're like also a magic artist too, or is he proud of you? I mean, that's got to
I
be
think
kind
he's
of
proud.
yeah, that's
I
cool.
think my brother teaches history. I think he's still teaching history. It might be mathematics now, but
Oh, that's notable
um
to be a teacher
yeah,
in
yeah, no,
this day
he
and age.
teaches like I think it's high school. Yeah, I think he teaches like high school. So some of his kids know who I am. And yeah, no, I think he's pretty proud and stuff, which is
That's
always
awesome.
nice to hear. But so I was doing these commissions and stuff, right? And I moved to Roanoke, and is where Star City Games is based out of. So I'm like, you know what, I'm tired of sitting at home all the time, I'm going to take a job pulling cards for Star City Games. And I did, and it paid about minimum wage. And at a point, it was like, oh God, I'm spending too much time here at Star City Games, and I'm making, I'd be making more money doing furry commissions right now. So, but they had an opening there. They needed somebody originally as a web programmer, like a programmer for their newsletter, which I didn't know anything about. I literally took like watched some YouTube videos and just like slapdash some crap together, and I got in as their newsletter programmer, and I did
Nice.
that for probably about 3 or 4 months. I was a slog. It was like doing taxes every day. I did not enjoy it. So,
Ooh,
um, our previous illustrator left. Liz Nugent was the previous Creature Collection illustrator, and then my boss, for some reason, thought that all people that were good at programming were also good at being an artist. Because my friend Kristen had gotten her start in that company the exact same way. She did the newsletter for a bit. They realized that she was very talented at drawing, and then they put her on a drawing. So that's kind of the route they put me on as well. I had to try out for the cutesy stuff because prior to that, I did a lot more like gruesome, like kind of like scary and like gnarly types of illustrations and stuff.
yeah. I
I did this
I
whole
can
thing of like monsters and what have you. And
I'd loved I scoured to see if any of that stuff was there. I you can see some elements of it, but I'm not sure
Mhm.
I is any of that stuff really available to the public, like, or do you keep that stuff um quieter because it's not really your brand, but it
You
is your
know,
brand.
yeah, I was gonna say with the comic and everything, the comic's based on like demons and angels and what have you, and it's a lot of like monsters and character designs. It's a little bit more of my bag nowadays. Like it's always been part of my bag. I'm looking through my files right now and see if I can find some of my horror commissions that I did. Because I just did one where it was just like I'll take your character and I'll just make them look real messed up, and
Because
uh,
there's some earlier some of like the dragons like that work that you've done, like the
mhm.
dragons and some of these like characters, I can see the dark coming out. Like you can see it in the werewolves and whatnot.
Mhm. Yeah, no, there's a few different things and stuff in there. Like I still really enjoy that a lot. And so yeah, I learned how to do cute stuff for this job. And I was at the beginning, I was kind of just emulating Liz Nugent's style with the bigger eyes, and she did a lot more squirrels and what have you. But got in doing that for Star City Games. We did a few of the normal creatures for a bit, and then we started doing parodies. Boss one time came in and he's like, I have a great idea. We're just going to do the key art, but we're going to do a remix of it where it's going to be funny. And I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. So I think the Penguins of Antarctica was the very first one we had done, where it was like some sort of parody on Magic's key art. And then we started doing these like creature collection like puns and what have you. So we did like Tassiper, and we did a few other ones. Tassiper was the really big one
Yeah, I
that people
love
really.
the. I guess it's Lily Llama. I'm assuming
Yeah,
it's
there's Lily Llama. I've got a big ass bin of I had to start getting rid of some of these playmats because they would give me one of every playmat that I'd done. And it equated to about 80 pounds of playmats
That's a lot of pounds of playmats.
at a point. So yeah, no, it was it was a lot of work at doing that. And then after about 3 years of working at Star Games, Wizards contacted me out of the blue, and I thought the email was fake. So I had me and a friend went into the metadata, and we were looking at like the ISP numbers, and we're like, oh, "This comes out of Renton, Washington. I don't know, dude." And I spent about 15 minutes like panicking at the back of the room and freaking out a little bit and everything. So
Do you remember who
yeah,
it was that contacted you? Was that the
I believe
art
it was
director
Don Mirri.
or?
Yeah, I think it was I believe it was Dawn Murin had contacted me.
Wow,
I think
that's
she was my first art director and stuff, and now I've worked with most of them. I think there's a couple I haven't worked with, but I can't keep track of who.
I mean, I mean, that's awesome that I mean, because you really, they are the best at
Yeah.
what they're really. You got to be good at your job to do that. And so you get a call, you figure out it's real, and your
Mm.
first official assignment is that the one from Theros? Is that the?
The first one was the unstable card. So the very
Okay.
first card that I got was Ordinary Pony. And I remember being like, "Oh, I can't wait to draw cool things for Magic." It's like just draw a pony. It's like,
Oh, okay.
and then I think it was the cat ones after that, the adorable kitten and the half kitten. I think it
And
was adorable kitten, half kitten, and like monkey all at the same time, and I just
yeah, and they're really
thought I would die.
very well. I mean, it's amazing. They're painterly. It in their
Hmm.
like it's. I mean, were those extra stressful because of the fact that you were, like this was like, did you feel like you had to prove yourself? That kind
Oh
of thing?
God, yeah, yeah. I thought I'm like, oh God, I've tricked them into thinking I know what I'm doing. And I just remember like having magic cards and like looking at my illustration and looking at the magic card. I'm like, it sucks, and
Oh,
then and working on it some more and everything. And yeah, no, I was super stressed with the first set and everything. And I did 8 cards out of that
yeah,
set, which is crazy. And I remember telling that because I wanted to start attending like Magic the Gathering shows and what have you. And I remember telling some of the artists there, I'm like, I did 8 cards with my first set, and they're like, you do so many cards. I'm like, they're just animals. I don't know, dude.
you're like,
It's just half of a monkey. I don't know what to
they
tell
offer,
you.
I say
So,
yes. That's what. So, but I mean, I know that I came to know you really was from the Secret Lair, which now
mhm,
you so you had been working with magic for at that point in time for a couple of years, or for at
mhm,
least a few years. Now with the Secret Lair, I was because I saw it like on your the Radish Eater, which by the way, do you like radishes that much? I mean, because
no, no. My last name Radeck translates to radish eater.
oh
It's a
really?
Prussian.
Oh,
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So, I come from a long dignified line of like farmers from the roughly German, Austrian, Polish-ish area.
Polish, Polish
So
ish.
the Prussian area, and stuff. So yeah, that's where I just thought it was funny that it's a lot of early surnames and stuff were just based off of like professions or things that were like notable about the person, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's always that joke. What did John Hancock?
Mm,
What did John
no,
Hancock do? So it's let's see. So okay, so there because you posted one thing. It's unfortunately I can't mark stuff when I see it, but you
mm,
mentioned something along the lines of you got an email and it was you were had managed to reply to it very quickly, and that's how
mhm.
you got one of the gigs. I don't think it was the Mirri gig, but I believe
Yeah, it wasn't that one.
I believe it
Um,
was. But I'm kind of curious about that
the
story.
Birds of Paradise.
Yeah, okay. So like that's really how it went down. Like there was an email and you got to it because that's kind of crazy that you just like it's just like, hey, anybody available for Secret Lair? And you're like, and
Yeah, so what it was is that I think they had some people that they wanted to do, like they had some people picked out, and I think somebody had to drop out last minute. I think
okay,
that's why they decided to just be like, "Hey, who wants it?" And I think they tagged a bunch of artists and
previous.
stuff that they knew weren't working on anything at that moment, And yeah, I happen to be at a show. I happen to be up early. I am not a morning person. I'm not even an early after. Like I right now I'm waking up at like 11 p or 11 a.m. It's not
I,
great. Very productive. So
hey, I mean,
um
it's if it works for you, it works for you, right?
yeah, I was gonna say I still get the full 8 or 9 hours of sleep a night. I just at weird times. So um yeah, I just happened to be at a show. I was just looking at it was like right before the show started, and then yeah, he just sent something. Was like, hey, anybody want to take a card? He didn't even say what it was for. It was for a secret lair or anything like that. I'm like, yeah, me, I'll do that. And I think I replied to him a couple minutes after he'd sent it. Like, wow, you're quick. You got it.
And I have to say, you and the kid, the child, Eli was the little kid who did the
I
original.
believe, yeah, Eli.
What that was really impressive. The like they gave you something to work with. Like
Oh yeah, no.
it was really a very cool design. I thought, wow, like
Hmm.
that must have been like a relatively like easy, like just you're like, okay, you already gave me the concept art. I just got to make it like I got to give it flourish. It's one of those things 'cause, like sometimes you see 'em, I mean, they're all cute, right? Like they're all
Hmm.
adorable,
Hmm.
but they're maybe like a little thick figure and this one's like fully formed with a rainbow tail, and I thought that's a good bird of paradise. So, but veering back to the Mirri, to the kitty cats, how did that go down? How did that sort of happen,
Mm.
for you, and how exciting was it?
So I had gotten that it would have been early 20 or possibly late 2018, possibly early 2019. I'd gotten it and I had no idea. They didn't, because that was the very first secret layer that ever came out, was that Oh My God Kitty set.
Yeah.
Um, so artists kind of talk to each other in the way where they will be like, "Oh, did you work on archery? Oh no, I worked on baseball. Oh, did you work on moon? No, I worked on the sun." And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
stuff like that to kind of reference which stuff that they're working on or what have you.
Right.
Um, the one for the secret layer was Thunderstorm, and so I remember some artists were talking about that. I'm like, "Oh, I've been doing work on Thunderstorm," and they're like,
What?
"Andrew, what the hell is Thunderstorm?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What the hell is Thunderstorm? What the fuck am I doing?" Like, because I was they with some of the other illustrations, they were very poignant to tell me. They're like, "Listen, no big eyes," like it's a curse coming out of my hands, and I can't stop it. It's like we want normal looking animals, no big eyes. I'm like, I got you, I'm good. And with this one, they're like, cute it up, make it as cute as possible. I'm like, ooh, I don't know what's going on, but they're playing with fire, I'm like, okay, yeah, shit, I can do that. They're like, just do it like, just cute as possible. I'm like, okay.
It's I mean,
um,
it's awesome. They're very cute, and I mean, I remember people like shitting their pants, like like
oh
oh,
god,
like
yeah.
people were excited to get that one. Like I mean, I got it because I thought these are really cool, and
Mm.
when are they going to do something like this again? Like it was like because I
Hmm.
was like I wonder then. I guess do they name every secret layer by a secret name? Do they do that? Like I mean, because that must be you have artists coming out being like, I'm working on like chicken leg, and they're like, oh, okay. Just everybody's like just saying random words to each other.
I don't think so. I think for the most part, I can actually check really quick because I just have a folder where it's like magic, and then I have the various different sets and stuff that I've worked on, and there's one just labeled as like other, and that's where all the secret layer stuff has gone into. But usually on their not their metadata, but usually on their thing they will put they'll say like, oh, thunderstorm underscore boop a boop. So let us see, where is I misc. I'm sorry. Um it looks like I think they only did that for the first one. I think
Yeah,
they only labeled it as Thunderstorm for the first one, and I think they are just uh, labeled it as like secret layer drops. So SLD
that's
is
kind of
usually the thing that
that's
comes
gotta be
up.
cool to be like the one named secret layer and the first secret layer. I mean, like that's epic. So like, would you consider that to be when you really like got like people were really paying attention to you? Would you say that was as far as like in magic? Like I mean, you were building up and you had the audience growing with you, but I feel like that's when you
Mm.
like arrived. If that makes any sense.
I feel. I feel that as well. Like, I had a good amount of people that enjoyed the Star City Games playmats and stuff that I had done, and they were excited to see me, doing some unset stuff. I did get a number of comments that are like, "When are you doing real sets, though?" And I was like,
Oh,
I'm like, I'm working on it, and
that's also, it's like, helping or hurting. You know what I mean? Like when you doing a real set, I'd be like,
it's
when are you doing a nice person impression? Like,
exactly.
yeah,
The answer is no,
yeah.
no.
It'd be like, okay, a jealous person says, but
Yeah, no, I very early on when I started doing some of the cute stuff for Magic before we started doing some of the parody work, I would occasionally get some people where they would get upset because they thought the cute stuff was kind of infringing on like this very kind of stoic idea they had of Magic the Gathering. And so there's a few times doing these like smaller shows for SCG, I had a people whispering behind my wall one time because I had like a great wall, GRATE wall, and these people are like, I don't get what this cute shit's about. Fucking sick of seeing this shit in my, in this, and I'm just standing there behind there like, you know, here I am, I can hear you, and they leave real quick and stuff. But no, thankfully nowadays, Magic feels a lot more kind of inclusive to, like nobody's gonna get bent out of shape if you have a cute Mirri in your deck. It's not so much where people are as kind of defensive about it because it has allowed in the secret layer stuff in general has allowed in a lot of really cool styles and a
yeah,
lot of really neat artists and everything too. So I think people kind of see it now as what it is, which is a way to kind of diversify things up and kind of appeal to a kind of a larger market with some different styles and what have you. So
absolutely, absolutely. I think
yeah,
Magic for a while was limiting itself because of its inability to. It's like the game started out as very avant-garde, like it had
yeah,
these student artists kind of doing these strange things, and then it became very, must be of like a certain type of, like it has to be like realism, real looking, but yet, at the same time, like this very distinct look, and keep to the design books and whatnot. And then, I
hmm
mean, that was great, and those artists are still amazing, and the work they do is fantastic and all that. But I think finally they really understood that people are not going to, like, yeah, you're gonna have those, lunatics who are gonna, like, whine and moan, but, like, when do they not whine and moan? I mean, they'll find
yeah,
something
that's the thing.
to complain about,
People will find something to get upset about, and it gave me a lot of really kind of fun stories, I guess, from that era. I had a dude one time come up to my table at I think it was New Jersey. It was like an invitational, SCG invitational in New Jersey, and he just comes up and he has like a bag of Burger King in his hand. He like stands in front of my table. He turns around and then he just sits down and just starts eating a burger in the very front of my table, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm almost done. I'm like, can you get out? I just a little bit more. I'm like, can you get the fuck out now?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Like,
there's a wall over there. Go sit by the wall.
what
It's just like
he just thought, like, this was, like, he thought it was a cafeteria?
I think he was doing that to like
Oh, to be a
to like
troll or something?
snub. Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it was. I was just like, what the fuck are you doing? Get the fuck out. You don't think I'm gonna tell you to get the fuck out,
What's deceptive about you is when I meet you in person. Because when I met you, briefly when we met in Orlando, you were so, like, you seemed so sweet, and so I thought, oh, she's such a nice, like, she was such a nice girl, like,
I
and
lull you into a sense of false, a
and
sense
that's
of
good.
security.
I
Yeah.
dig it, because then listening to you on, like, on your podcast, I'm like, and in other
Yeah.
interviews, I'm like, oh, she's got language. Like, I always love a fellow cursor, because I tend to draw, like, there's footage of me at 5 at Easter where I was
Mhm.
winning my 3-year-old sister. I was finding all the eggs, and my grandfather distracted me, and I take my Easter egg basket and I throw it down, and I go, fuck, and my mom is holding the camera, and you hear her go, oh no. She's just like, I've been cursing since I was little. So it's always nice to meet a fellow, like, but yeah, that must have been
Curse
like,
enthusiast.
yeah, it must be like, it must be fun to watch these people who are just sort of not assuming that you're going to be like,
I try to keep it reined back a little bit. If there's a person that I feel like, because I have young nephews and stuff now, so I try not to curse around them. Even though my
Right.
brother was like, "You can curse around them," I'm like, I don't
I'd
want
rather
to,
not.
they're gonna learn it somewhere. I don't want it to be it from me.
Yeah.
I'll just embrace it once it comes. So, uh, no, I used to be super short. I only started growing and I like hitting puberty when I was about 15,
Oh
I think.
wow.
And so I was about 4'7"
Oh, you were
for the long.
tiny.
I learned how to drive sitting on books. Like,
Wow.
so um, at a certain point when I was in school, people used to pick me up like a baby, and I would just say
Like
like, "Yeah, leave me the fuck alone! Don't fucking touch me!" And then, oh, because it'd be like fourth grade. I think fourth grade is where I really started cursing at people as like a
yeah,
self defense mechanism, and uh,
that makes sense.
after that, it was just pretending, that I wasn't cursing as much as I was. But
That makes
no,
sense though.
yeah.
People would like pick you up like without asking. That's so
Oh yeah, no, they'd just be like, "Oh, look at little Andrea. Little Andrea's the size of a baby." You're not a baby, but like, God,
yikes.
there was one summer where it was me and this other kid. His name is Matt Took. Not doxing him. He's a nice dude. Uh, he and I were the two shortest people left in school, and he and I both hit puberty hard. Like one summer, like I grew like 11 inches in about a year, and because I'm like 5'7" now, but I just remember he and I had this moment where we came back to school. We were tall, and we were both like,
What's that?
finally.
That's tough. I mean, but you know what's kind of cool about that though is that I feel like because when you are like late bloomer, because I was one as well, the later you bloom, the longer you get to glow when you're past the other people who hit it early, like their bloom is off the rose, and you're like, well, I still have mine going because I went into puberty like 7 minutes ago. So
Yeah, that's what my parents used to tell me all the time too. They're like, "Listen, the later you get them, the later stuff happens. It's gonna be good. Don't worry about it and
yeah,
everything." So yeah, and they're not wrong. Like I still get mistaken for being like in my earlier mid 20s
yeah,
from
yeah.
time to time. I'm near 40 now, so
Yeah, exactly. Like
you know,
that's the thing. It's like I feel like that's how it works. Like you don't
yeah.
want to be. I mean, like and plus, like I feel bad for like my mom was like I had C size like at 11. I was like, oh, like that's got to be rough too. Yeah, like
Yeah. Oh my god.
but
Oh,
so then I feel like okay, so then I guess we're gonna do some hypotheticals and a little bit of personal
sure.
questions for you. So as far as artists who I always kind of use this expression like maybe they're part of your like artistic DNA, who would you name off as some people that contributed to who you are today as far as where you've evolved your style and stuff like that?
I really like Jesper Jesper Essing. I can never say his name correctly.
Yes, he's
Steve
amazing.
Prescott is another. Yeah, no, his stuff is. I love the kind of like emotive and still kind of serious quality and just the beautiful colors and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Steve Prescott is another one that I used to watch his work a lot, and now he and I are friends. He lives around here in Columbus too, so
that's cool.
go to drink and draw and go kayaking one time
That's
together.
so
So
cool. Pinch me
I
moment.
ask him for advice on how to take pictures of paintings and what have you. So, um, and then were some of the artists I really liked. Todd Lockwood a
Oh
lot when I
yes.
was younger.
Mhm.
Big fan of Todd Lockwood. And then there's some other ones. There's a. It's been a while. Oh, I was big into. The hell is his name? He's not a magic artist. He's actually. I think he has done one magic card, but it's more of like more of a serious, I guess, artist and stuff. God's killing me.
We can
I was big into Sterling Hundley and stuff for a while too. More kind of some graphic design illustrators and stuff as well. So
that's I've
I can't remember the other guy.
it's okay. I've gotten to interview everybody you mentioned except for Sydney. So that's like
Oh, okay,
yeah,
cool.
if you go kayaking, you just be like, "Hey, you want to do an interview?" I know someone you put a good word for me. But so I would then question you like, so okay, let's say magical choice. You are given the choice to choose any character in the like entire roster of Magic. to do,
Mm.
or let's say, I mean, whatever brief you wanted to do, what would be the ideal briefs or briefs for you? Like, let's throw them out to the universe, like the way they do in The Secret, which is not a secret because it's sold millions of copies. But
I really like drawing. There's a few different type of like I like drawing big cats a lot. I really if I had like a very like I was really excited about drawing Rin and Serri because that was one of the things I was like, man, I'd love to draw Rin and Serri, and then that came down the line. And I was just like, I did those traditionally and sold those off recently and stuff, and
good for you.
yeah, no, I actually delivered one of them yesterday, the very last one yesterday, to
Wow.
person that bought it. So because they just happen to live around here in Ohio too. Everybody just kind of collects around here. So
Oh, that's got to be
uh,
nice. At least like that's a less stressful way of sending a painting, right? Just be like, I'm gonna deliver it because yikes, yeah. Ooh.
yeah, that's what I told him. I'm like, we're both gonna sleep a lot better. We'll just me because he's about 2 hours away, so we just spent about an hour in between,
Oh
and then I
yeah,
went to Grandpa's Cheese Barn and some other things that were around the area over in Ashland. So
Grandpa's
no,
Cheese Barn.
it's I wish I still had some of the candy I've there, but yeah, no, it's just like one of those places that's just kind of like a side, like an attraction, just kind of on the side of the highway. But it's one of those where it's like, oh, it's been around since the '50s, and yeah,
Is
Grandpa's Cheese Barn is the name of it and
do
stuff, and they
they
have a lot of good stuff.
do they have
But
like
yeah,
a barn full of cheese? I mean,
they
is it
did, yeah.
what,
it's a
is it
it's a
good? I mean,
renovated barn, and I
is
got
it
something
good
called
cheese?
they, I I believe so. I think they make all their cheese and stuff right there.
Nice.
I don't want to call Grandpa a liar, but I'm pretty sure he makes all of his stuff there. No, I got some like Italian melting cheese or some crap like that, like
Mm-hmm.
grilling cheese. I'm sorry, Italian
Ooh,
grilling cheese.
well, that
Yeah,
does
no.
sound good. Yeah.
So, some garlic butter, some other stuff like that. But yeah, no, it was really good. But yeah, things that I would want to work on is like I just in general really enjoy drawing some of their more kind of weirder and more interesting like animal arts and stuff. So I did Bounding Wolf, which I kept trying to get them to change the name to Barkor, but they didn't. I tried. But something like that was a lot of fun because it was like, how often are you going to draw like a wolf doing nearly a sick flip off of a tree, biting a bat, and enjoyed the
Not
hell out of
often, I'd say.
that. And yeah, it's what?
I said not often, I'd say. You don't get
Not
that.
that's the first. That was the very first. So I just really enjoy. I'd love to draw some of their dragons. Like used to draw a
Let's
lot more
see.
dragons and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
love
I
to
can
draw me
see.
some dragons. But there's a
I
lot
mean,
of really talented people that are already very good at drawing dragons. So
but
yeah.
like there's always room for more. Like when I interviewed Magali Villeneuve, she had to draw a dragon in part of like they assigned her a dragon. She's like, I don't do dragons. I don't do dragons. Like so, and she survived it. So I feel like that's what's cool about magic is that they can slip in somebody
Hmm.
who can then become like part of like the dragon group or whatnot. And your dragons are very cool designs. Like I also I would have guessed you might have like a little bit of a secret Eldrazi, like
I love, yeah, no, like werewolves. Werewolves would be amazing. I can tell you saw my horror token, my like gross
yes.
looking werewolf. Yeah, no, the story behind that is I was drawing some Star City Games thing where it just had 9 million very cute faces as a hedgehogatog, I think is what I was drawing, and it was just like nine just very cute faces one after another, and I just got so sick of it. I'm just like so sick of looking at these stupid ass hedgehogs. Like everything is too goddamn saccharine. I just got bitter about it and stuff. So that's when I drew because that set had just come out. And I'm like, oh man, I would love to draw one of those. And drew me a spooky werewolf, Eldrazi thing was kind of in line with that set. The Shadows over Innistrad, I think.
Yeah, Shadows is
Yeah.
the with Emrakul as the she's
Yes. Yeah.
changing everything. I'd I'd
Mhm.
I'd love to see I'd love to see like your interpretation of a like Emrakul. Like it would be cool to see because I feel like you would do some like witchy stuff with it. I
Mhm.
I would say that. So you think, but it sounds like then you've kind of like you've worked on the things that you really want to work on, but there's not one that like you haven't like touched at all. Like besides like dragons? I mean, like, because I'm curious. Like, I also feel like I do kind of have a little bit of a belief that if you put it out there, it
Yeah.
becomes material.
Yeah. I think for the most part, Magic is really good about kind of picking out the type of things that you like to draw. Like they'll look at your portfolio, and as long as your portfolio is full of stuff that you want to keep doing, they're very astute about like, oh, I can see that you like. For me, they don't give me people to draw, which is good because I don't want to draw people. And there's thousands of very talented artists that are very good at drawing people that can kick my ass, and that's good. I want them to do that. They're very good at it. So their Magic is actually good at kind of looking and listening on the type of stuff that you feel that you want to do. And if you just tell them like, hey, I'm feeling more spooky, like I have to send them an email. I keep forgetting to send them this email. Where because I've been doing renovation. I don't know if you can see my big hole in the ceiling from where the wall used to be, and I renovated. Don't worry about the boxes. I bought a 3D printer recently. But I I renovated, a bunch of stuff, and I told him like, "Hey, I'm kind of busy for a bit. I'm going to be working on this because I bought a house. It was very beginning of October is when I first bought the house. So,
Congratulations.
uh, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of years of saving, and I always tell people the reason I could afford a house is because I'm allergic to avocados, so I can't spend all my money on avocado toast. So,
Oh, are you allergic to avocados?
oh God, yeah, no, terribly.
Oh my goodness, that's I mean, oh, that sucks. They're really good.
I know. There was a before times where I could eat a lot more stuff. I only got my allergies ironically around the same time that I started doing art for a living. So
They
maybe I should look
mutate.
into that.
Allergies mutate. They mutate throughout
I
life.
I know it. I got poison ivy. I did this stupid thing where I wanted to do an art picture with a bunch of like colorful foliage leaves,
Oh,
and went out to the forest, picked a bunch of leaves, came back, started working on it. I was drawing like a big fish. I was going to do all the scales were different leaves. It was dumb.
well, I
And
mean that sounds cool. It
it sounds cool, but I like cut these little like shapes out, and then they got all crispy and screwed up looking, and they just ended up looking like kind of pressed roses, I guess. It didn't turn out, but yeah, it turns out that all the leaves I was working with were poison ivy,
fuck.
and and I had it systemically for 6 weeks. So,
Oh my god.
uh, yeah, I looked like a leper. I had like big swaths of just it was just all over my
Oh,
body.
because I mean, like once you touch it, if you touch anything else, it's there. It's all over you. Like,
And I was working with it for 2.5 days. So, well,
oh,
about a day and a half actually.
oh
And,
gosh. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
so I was like the secret leper of Western Illinois University for a while, and I literally like I had there's this big like purple swath across my face. It kind of looked like a Braveheart thing, but I just like come to class and I have my hoodie on.
You're like,
um,
don't look at me.
oh, it was an oh my God, it was a nightmare. But after that, they think I went through something called a cytokine storm, which essentially kind of crashes your immune system. And then when it comes back online, it doesn't know what the hell it's doing. So the way that one doctor uh, described it to me is kind of like if you ground all the planes and then you get rid of all the information of where they're supposed to go and how they're supposed to fly. That's kind of what your body systems are doing. Is they have
Wow.
no idea what they're doing. So out of that, I got 47 allergies.
Oh,
17 of them are life threatening, and avocados are one of them. I'm allergic to a whole bunch of other stuff.
17? That means you had to, okay, so but you got tested and they let you know that
Yeah.
17, you didn't have to like figure out that like any
No,
of
no,
these.
no. Yeah, no. It's basically anything outside. Grasses, weeds, and trees are all bad. If I
Oh,
like step on the grass, I'll get hives on my feet. If if
oh,
my hand touches, if it scrapes like the side of some wood or something, it'll get hives. And
that's so
um,
that's so I mean, it's so weird, right? It feels like why would nature do that? Why would that be a thing? I mean, like why would you make allergies to like I mean, I like that's odd. Doesn't it seem
mm.
odd? Like that's
I mean, when your body is just kind of attacking itself like that,
yeah.
it doesn't really give a shit what it does.
Yeah.
It's just kinda going haywire. And they were hoping that maybe the allergies would kind of calm down once I hit my 30s. They haven't.
So,
So I've got a double EpiPen, and I just have to stay away from certain things.
oh
But
gosh, I mean, like not a
used
lot
to
of
it by
food
now.
though. Is it food? Does food affect you? Because like that would kill me. Like,
Oh yeah.
Oh, so obviously besides avocado, I mean, I'm curious.
So
It's
tree
more of a
nuts.
curiosity. I shouldn't be asking this, but I mean,
No, it's fine.
it's not
I was
that
gonna say, well, 47 total allergies, and then 17 of them are like,
deadly.
you know,
Oh,
yeah. I
what are
was
I'm
allergic
just
to most of the things except for like 12, I think, because there was like 60 tests. Whatever, it did a lot. I was allergic to a lot of it, but yeah, grasses, weeds, trees, exotic fruits, melons, tree nuts, avocados,
tree
technically
nuts.
cats, but
Well, oh well,
I
I
get
mean,
used to them. Yeah,
like yeah, okay, so it's like you can tolerate those, but it's like what are the ones that like you need the like is it like obviously like shellfish or
most of the
something?
food
Because
ones.
yeah,
No,
shell.
thankfully, I'm not allergic to a lot of the only like really aromatic thing that'll mess up my day is like watermelons. Watermelons are if somebody's cutting watermelons, that'll get kind of stuffy and
Whoa.
stuff. For the most part, everything else, it's just like I don't eat it, so it's fine. Like it's not like peanuts or anything. It's, where if
Okay.
somebody's three houses down, opens up a jar of peanut butter, then your child goes to the emergency room. Thankfully, it's not like that. So, yeah, I just
Oh,
have to be careful about certain stuff, and I feel I still have a pretty varied diet and everything.
that's
I just don't.
intense though,
I don't.
because and all that because you basically like were
I because I loved art. I started.
that is
This is what it's done to me. No,
is
I.
die doing what I loved.
Yeah, almost. Can almost. I had a. The reason I found out I was allergic is I after this whole thing had kind of resolved out, and I'd gotten off the prednisone because they had me on just
Oh yeah.
mammoth qualities of prednisone. Um, I was having a delightful dinner of fruit juice and chewy Chips Ahoy cookies in college, and throat kept closing up on it. And I just didn't really know what the hell was going on, so I just kept trying to shove cookies down.
Oh, you're like
I think it
that's
tore up my
odd.
throat a little bit. No, I was stupid. I shouldn't have done that, but I'm like, no, it's weird. I'm drooling a lot and I'm not hungry, but I am going to eat these cookies. And I just kept like trying to shove them in and stuff. Yeah, no, God.
Oh no, I'm with you totally. Like I had an allergic reaction to medication. I became
Ooh.
necrotic. Like I went to
Ooh.
scratch my arm and like my flesh came off and I was like, hmm.
What were you
And,
allergic to?
oh god, I can't remember the name of the medication. It was a sleep medication that I had in I can't remember the name. Was it meloxicam? I think so. But like
Oh, really?
it was intense that like I remembered like I was basically like dying, but I was not bright
God,
enough to
yeah.
like think to call 911. So I just had my dog with me and I was like I was seeing my dog's breath like going like up and down and I'm like my dogs breathe really fast and I was like or do I breathe really slow? And that's like basically I managed to make it through but like yeah, I remembered scratching myself and it was like and yeah, I could
God,
have been worse.
my grandma has stories like that, but she's on blood thinners and stuff. Like the
Yeah,
dog walked across her lap and it just left like paw prints that were just blood.
yeah, it was really and the worst part was I did it and I was like, "That's very different." Like, I guess when you're in
Yeah,
those states, you're not quite there, you're kind of
yeah.
you're a little odd, but that's
Yeah,
intense.
I
Oh,
didn't know to be panicked about my throat being closed. I'm just like, oh, that's weird.
that's
I'll go take a
weird.
nap. I'm tired.
Sleepy
Like
throat, wake up.
dangerous. Oh my god, dangerous stuff. And yeah, no.
But like we made it through. Like that's well, like you telling that story. Maybe I haven't thought about that for years. I'm like, whoa, that was a crazy time. Like, but so I would then say, what are some other projects that you are working on right now that you can talk about that that would be fun to just hear a little bit about. What do you got going on? Do you commissions? Are you now completely like just booked entirely?
So for the most part, I do a comic right now that pays all my bills. I technically do the Magic the Gathering stuff as a side hop, like a side
That's a
hustle.
good hustle.
I I don't know. Well, and that's the thing is like there have been so many like people and stuff losing their jobs recently. Like it's been so terrible. Like if you told me 5 years ago that I would have been able to make a living just doing, a comic about a story I wrote 10 years ago, that was the most like financially stable thing that I do right
That's
now. And
amazing, though.
called you a liar, so no, the comic's been going for about 4 years now.
That's amazing.
It's like I said, it's based off of a book I wrote because prior to doing any sort of drawing or any sort of biology or anything like that, I was really big into writing,
Hmm.
and that's the thing I always used to do when I was a kid, and it got me in trouble because I used to write like murder mysteries when I was in like second and third grade about the babysitter, getting murdered, and there was like a mass killer coming in, and yeah, I don't
Oh,
know
I would have loved.
what,
I would
yeah.
have been friends with you. I'd have been like, "Where's the next book?" Because yeah,
I had this event happen when I was on the bus one time where I used to be a lot more of a person that would tell a lot of lies because I was just like desperate for people's attention in any sort of way. I come from a kind of fucked up family
I can
backstory,
understand that.
stuff. So yeah, so I would tell these stories that would get over embellished, and now I'm swung the entire opposite, where I'm extremely honest to the point where somebody's like, "Oh, I thought it was like this." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not like that." Like anyway, so I was telling this story to a friend of mine. Her name was Heather on the bus, and I stopped in the middle of the story, and I'm like, "I'm lying to you. I don't know why I'm lying to you. I'm really sorry. None of this happened." She's like, "I know. I just want you to keep going. What else happened in this story?" I was just
Wow.
like, well, you want to hear the things that I'm saying. You want to hear the random crap I come up with, and stuff, and that stuck with me for a long time. And
What a insightful reply. Like,
right,
I know. I just want to hear you tell the story. Like that's how old were you at that point in time? How old were you two?
I want to say we were probably maybe like 12 or 13,
Such
maybe
an
14.
adult response to like be like, "Oh, I know you were lying. I just want to," like, that is so like you hear that coming out of like maybe say like a 40-year-old like psychiatrist or therapist.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's insightful. So that's kind of when it kickstarted your like, my lies could just be fiction if I point them in the right direction.
my my lies could be worth money. No,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I done some stories and stuff when I was younger, but then it got me a lot more focused on like I used writing as kind of a way to kind of alleviate stress and stuff for a lot of my teen years, and I have some really terrible early books that are extremely long and just they use some 41 lyrics at some parts of them. Anyways, like so bad.
But that's okay because
But yeah,
every
no,
band back then had to have a number in it. Like it was very important.
yeah, it was Blink 182, some
Matchbox
41,
20,
Matchbox 20. Yeah, there you go.
311. Like it could go on and on.
311.
Yeah, they
I
all
was
had to
gonna
have
say I
numbers in it.
saw them.
It was something else. But so then
So
Caelum Sky,
yeah,
it became like these. I don't want to say magnum opus, but like it has become like as you say, it's become the most like it brings home the
it's
bacon.
we have a very dedicated fan base and stuff. I don't say we, but it's a very dedicated fan base and stuff with it. And I've got what's the page I'm working on right now is 309. It's done in a style that's a little bit looser and a little bit goofier than
Hmm.
some of
Hmm.
my stuff. Which it always throws people for a loop where it's like, oh, by the way, here's my magic cards, and they're like, I thought you only drew like this, like this kind of cell shaded, more simplified version and everything. It's like, no, I can be legitimate at times, but
But
Caelum Skies,
it's
yeah.
also legitimate because like if that's a way for you to if that's a way for you to sort of release the do the release valves, like as far as because
Mhm.
I would imagine having to do something that's intense and like very focused, going back to something that it just requires you to be loose, and also it helps with fast production, right? And I mean, like
Oh yeah,
you can
absolutely.
like like that's not, I mean, I love so many comics, which by the way I never knew this existed. I saw this on your thing too, the Garfield without Garfield, which I got sucked into a void. I was like, oh my god, like that's dark. Like I've dark.
I love Garfield without Garfield. I'm a big fan of kind of like surrealism and absurdism and stuff.
Mhm.
That's like my secret passion is like when people can do that like really well. Like, oh god, it strikes such a wonderful chord,
Who
so
who do you think that would who would be some examples of the like absurdist humor? Because I know I love all the Adult Swim stuff, but
oh god, good absurdism. I I was gonna say like like Garfield without Garfield is nice in a certain type of way. There's a few different. I haven't kept super up to date with some sort of like surrealist artists and stuff that I used to follow a lot more when I was in college. Um, but there's a number of really interesting ones out there where it's a very poignant type of message that they'll put out. Like sometimes people will just do weird for the sake of weird, and I'm not a big fan of that.
Mm.
But I do enjoy weird for the sake of like just hitting that right type of note. But yeah, no, Caelum Sky was a story that I started figuring out how the world worked when I was about 17. I was pushing carts as a utility clerk. It's a bagger at a grocery store. And I would use the time outside pushing carts to be like, okay, so if this works like this, then how does this work? What is this? So I figured out kind of the world and stuff that it fits into first. And I did that for about 3 years. And then, while I was still in college, I did one of I was kind of building up on what I thought the plot was going to be and how I wanted these characters to kind of progress and everything. And then I did one of those nano remos, during November and wrote 150,000 words
Wow.
in the course of November, which is, I think, 3 times the goal.
Shit.
Like 158,000 words, I think, is what I got to. So I got a whole bunch of it out. And I started releasing them chapter by chapter up online. And I had a DeviantArt at that point, and I had a decent amount of people stuff, watching that DeviantArt, and people really liked it, and
That's
it's so much
amazing.
so that yeah, like another 10 years went by, and after everything had wrapped up, and I still had people like finding my email and writing me like nice notes about like, hey, I came across your book and I really really liked it, and the book has really big emphasis on like just kind of enjoying life as it is, just kind of trying to see the world just as it is instead of trying to kind of go with like a black and white type of thinking. And um people, one person was like, oh, this helped me to stop drinking, and I'm like, oh
Oh,
my god, this really seems to do stuff for people. And I used to keep these comments on my DeviantArt in like my saved folder for years at a time, because I'd stopped putting out the chapters and everything. I'd stopped doing everything else because I'd finished. And yeah, I just still had people finding me out of the blue and commenting and telling me how much they enjoyed it. So I I remember just sitting there just being like, man, I really should do something with that. And I think I was already doing work for Magic, and I'm like, I'll just do a comic. Why don't I just do a comic about it? Like I know how to draw. I figured out the style that I wanted to do was kind of the same style I was doing for my tokens. And I'm like, shit, yeah, I'll just do that. And then maybe I'll get a Patreon and I'll just make some money on the side and stuff on it. So during the pandemic, especially, uh, viewerage went up a lot because it
yeah.
started where maybe $70 a month, and then maybe $170 a month, and it just kept going up and up and up and up.
That's
And
so cool though.
yeah,
I mean,
so
in life affirming, that's it's so it that's I mean, good for you. Good for you for that because that is
yeah.
just a I mean, it really kind of just is a testament to the your abilities is that people will show up. They show up regardless of
Mm.
what it is that you're doing, and that's got to be that's got to be an awesome feeling to accomplish that. And so I know that there's one book that was put out. Now, I'd imagine like are there plans for like further installments, or like
Mm.
is there a like I don't know, like what kind of things are being planned around that you could talk about that
Yeah, sure. I was gonna say that's the nice thing about this just being my own project and no NDAs. Like I
right.
can tell you anything you want about it. So the first book was put out. It's the first 5 chapters. This one that I'm working on currently, that you can see
Oh,
there,
cool.
is part of the middle to endish of chapter 10. So once chapter 10 wraps up, that'll be the next 5 chapters, 6 through 10. And I plan on doing another Kickstarter for that. Probably this year is when it's going to be happening. Pages come out. The way that I structure my Patreon, which kind of helps to bring people in and also helps to not like gate anything really from folks, because the only thing that's being gated from people is just time. So
Yeah, which
everything
is
is on the
understood.
Patreon first, and then it filters publicly. So the Patreon has some 21 pages, I think, currently that are there, and then everything just gets set out the same time as it comes out publicly, you know, because like public they're on page 180, or not, I'm sorry, like 287 or something, and then privately or on the Patreon it's like 308, you know. So um there's a feather in my mouth. So
That's a good
everything
soundbite right
essentially,
there. You're like,
I know, right? But no, it just, everything just kind of filters out. And for this Kickstarter this year, we're going to be doing. I've had people asking about like big plushies, like 6 feet long
right,
plushies and stuff. We're gonna have
merchandise.
some. Yeah, yeah. I've already got some plushies and stuff downstairs that are smaller, and uh, I made the mistake with the first book of getting 1,000 of these in a hardcover, which I've gotten rid of most of them. I started out with 39 cases of books. I am down to 10. So,
Oh yeah, because you're your
we're,
own warehouse.
yeah. And when I was living in these tinier apartments and everything, I was living like a little box fort, you know, because it's just like
Oh,
every
yikes.
box is 50 pounds, you know. So over the course of the last couple of years, I've been selling most of them, you know, mostly at shows and everything like that. So upcoming year is definitely going to be enough hardcover, because I like doing a hardcover just for like
Yeah,
the Kickstarter edition, and then soft cover otherwise. You know?
right. It'll look
Not
that
going to
way. It'll
screw with
only weigh
that
like
anymore.
like 60 pounds versus 240. Like, that's a,
Exactly. Yeah.
like honestly, like that's the word when moving. It's like the books, the moving books. It's like that. I'm like, I wish I was a little more literate at this point in time, because like as you can see behind, like that right there was probably the worst part of the movie. Just those
Yeah.
books,
God.
books, books. But I mean, wow, that's so cool. That I mean, it's what would you say, do you take any, like, sort of inspiration from comics that you read? Like, any sort of, like, humorists? Is there anything that inspired you? Because that's a completely different, echelon from fantasy illustration.
Mhm.
Who would you say what were some of the things that you gleaned, like, good, like, style choices or
I
framing?
I used to read a lot of manga and stuff when I was younger, and I think that kind of that kind of brought up an interest and a love of at least like graphic novels and visual storytelling in those types of ways. You know, um, I think nowadays I'm not super connected to what, you know. Like I've met a lot of really incredible comicers and everything. Uh, just even people around here. There's a guy. He has a comic called Coda, Koda,
Oh, yeah.
where everything's like a watercolor illustration and it's all silent, and it's about like a little kid and a bear, you know, and
Yeah.
it's really beautiful and it's really interesting, and stuff like that. So I feel myself a little bit more inspired nowadays with kind of some of the people that I meet and some of the interesting comics that I've just kind of run into randomly, you know. But a lot of the earlier, at least like kind of the desire to draw, that type of stuff was definitely like some manga, you know.
Yeah, I actually didn't get into manga until I was 38, and that's also when I got into magic as soon as I'm like yeah, strange bird, but yeah, it's well, okay, so what are you some of like? Because I want to ask you before I let go, uh I gotta know horror movies that have like done it for you, and some mangas like that have done it for you. Like, what are some greatest
I
hits?
I used to really, really like what was it, Rumiko Takashi, like the people the person that does Inuyasha. Inuyasha was like the first one where I was like, I used to sneak downstairs when I was 16 or 17 and go watch the second run on Adult Swim, you know,
Yeah,
of the anime
the
at like 2 in the morning, and then
Toonami.
like some of the really late night Toonami stuff and everything. And holy cow. Yeah, so from Inuyasha I started going off into some of the other stuff that they've done, which is like Ranma one half. When I was working at a movie theater, we used to watch episodes of Love Hina for whatever goddamn reason, you know.
What, they just had them? You could put them on the screen? Is that like, how did you?
we we had a TV for like Emmys. For whatever reason, this movie theater was like big into the Emmys. So be like, oh, put in your Emmy nominations. Obviously, but put in your what you think the Emmys are going to be, and we would just have this TV on in the lobby. So whenever the very last run of movies would start, there's like an hour and a half that you would have to just kind of twiddle your fingers, right? You know, or
Ah,
twiddle your thumbs and do nothing. So what we used to do is we would bring a GameCube and play Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers Melee. I think it was Melee specifically. And we did that for hours and hours and hours on end and stuff. And so many good memories with that. But we would have the
Right.
same TV later, would just be like, hey, we're watching more Love Hina. I was like, okay. And just go in because most of the other people there, were maybe a little bit older, roughly like this 17 to maybe 23-year-old age and stuff. So, no, a lot of similar things. So, watch some good Love Hina and what have you. But for the most part, it's a lot of kind of like actiony animes and stuff, or action
Okay.
mangas. So,
Okay.
big into those.
And so, like for are there horror movies that get to you, or are you one of those people that do horror in your art but
I
avoid
laugh at
them?
horror. I laugh at horror because I'm nervous. I don't laugh at horror like
Yeah.
how
No.
droll. Like I'm not like making fun of them. Sometimes I am, but like I've never been big into horror movies just because, like, especially nowadays, it's a little bit more screamery. It's a little bit more like,
They're brutal. These
well,
days.
watch out,
Yeah.
or
And
yeah, it's just like
they're
a
really
slog.
realistic looking. Like it's like,
Yeah,
holy God, like that's it's I mean, and I don't know if it's me
I've
getting
dissected enough animals. I don't need to.
yeah, because I'm not sure. I'm like, is it I think I'm like I one of the things I realized about getting older, being a lifelong horror fan, is I'm like, I'm becoming more sensitive. And I
Yeah.
think that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I have filing space for that particular image. Like, and it makes me sad, but it also was like, I'm like, I don't know. Like for instance, like the new Interview with the Vampire series that came out, like once they
Uh,
showed the scene where they had a live animal like underneath a dining plate, I was like, fuck this. I don't need to watch this. Like, and I got so fucking mad at Game of Thrones during the Red Wedding. Like, oh,
yeah.
I stopped watching it. I was like, fuck. All right. Like, I don't enjoy watching people I'm getting attached to die. Like, it's just like
Hmm.
it was just that in The Walking Dead. There was a period in TV where it was like, let's get to know someone really well and then have them die horribly. And then
Yeah.
and
It
I
really
was just
sucked with.
like, no, I don't I'll go elsewhere. But yeah, I don't know. It's like sidetrack. So you don't like horror, but
I've I've never been too bothered by like gory stuff like that because I did used to do. For some reason, my parents put me in a dissection class when I was in third grade, which I think was at like six or seven. Like,
interesting choice. Interesting choice.
yeah, so I got pretty desensitized to seeing a lot of stuff like that kind of early out, for better or for worse. So
Wow.
a lot of the times if I see it's like, whoa, a gruesome thing, I'm just like, that's not what that looks like. Like not like I know better, but it'll just be like, oh, we're gonna cut a person in half, and it's just like, ugh, all right,
Yeah, you're like, wow,
unimpressed, not scared, just unimpressed.
yeah,
It's
no,
kind of
it's
like,
like there isn't like, but the truly classic films, like a lot of them they don't even have violence. I mean, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is deceptive in that it doesn't actually have any real on-screen violence. Like all of it is
does it
inflicted.
not?
Yeah, like the only time that you ever see a chainsaw hitting skin is when Leatherface falls and hits himself. But you don't ever see it happen to any of the main characters,
Huh.
like and you don't ever see any on-screen violence. The same too with Halloween. It's not like there's no real like you cannot see
Yeah, there's
anything.
like blood spray, isn't there? Like,
No, it's like it's
is there not?
actually yeah, there's very little. It's amazing that what people will insert when they think it's happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of that kind of that they don't do that anymore in horror because now audiences are they demand it, but there's something to be said that you can infer like for instance like the shower scene with like Psycho, like there's not a moment like but for like and I think that they like Alfred Hitchcock like got it in there because he wanted to be a sort of a bad boy, but you don't see the knife entering. You
Hmm.
just but everybody left that movie traumatized thinking like they're like, oh no, saw it happen, but no, it doesn't really happen. So that's cool. That's interesting. So then, like,
Funny.
what kind of films then? I guess then are you? What kind of film person are you? Because I'd imagine you are a film person because you're
I'm I'm one of those like Disney millennials, where for me to like, we literally watched, and I know this isn't Disney, this is DreamWorks, but literally last night it was just like, I'm bored, I'm putting on Shrek 3 and 4. Come join me, because I have a Discord for my comic, and so we had about 7 people. We were just talking shit about Shrek 3, because it's a terrible movie. So I love I love some of those. I love like animated films, especially. I love animated films.
When
Um
is Disney gonna when are they gonna bring that back? Like, Disney needs to fucking bring back the animated film. Like, I mean, I'm nothing against, like, but
hmm.
look, like,
No, I agree.
I mean, I think The Little Mermaid, like, that blew my mind as a little kid. Like, that was just it for me. Like, I was obsessed with Ariel, which, ended up being gay. Who knew? So like, but it's just like I wish they would bring that back. I don't know why they don't. I'm like, it
Takes a
costs
lot of
money to
time and
pay people because it
I
costs
they're
money.
yeah. They're just
So
still on their weird realism kick, and I cannot wait until that goes away.
yeah, because
I
it's like
I am not a fan of any of these live action remakes stuff.
because when you see
Live
the
action.
the like original Looney Tunes, and like these things where you watch them, you're like, oh my god, that is a photograph of an individual piece of art that was painted. It's like, oh, that's
Mhm.
mind blowing. I mean, and to think that they even got it done at the amount of time that they did it is like it blows the mind. And I just wish they would do that. I'm like,
Yeah,
nostalgia is such a big thing, right? These days, like everything is nostalgia. I'm like, well, when is that nostalgia going to happen? Because I would like to see that. I think that maybe probably would be better received than.
I hope so. I hope it comes back. Honestly, like if this comic keeps going, and because I've already found voice actors and stuff for doing like
Oh,
there's a
for
thing on
real?
YouTube. Well, yeah, there's a thing on YouTube for people just kind of like reading out like comic pages and stuff like that. So we have
That's
that
awesome.
going, and then I have a guy that's editing, and then he's kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. So
Uh,
you know, yeah. But I would love to, if I ever get the stuff together, to be able to put this into like an episodic, type of actual
yeah, like a flash, like
run.
kind of.
Yeah, like a drawn type of. I bought Clip Studio Paint recently, which is actually something I think a lot of animes do in Japan. It's like the industry standard for animes in Japan is Clip Studio Paint for animating. But I wanted to at least do some more of that, and then maybe get a better grasp on it. And then my ideal is somewhere down the line I be able to fund something where we can get some episodes or something together.
And I'd imagine you're apprehensive about even pitching it because I'm assuming this is yours. You want to be able to have complete control over it, right?
Yeah, I would definitely want there to be, I would definitely want to obviously be a big part of it and everything. A lot of people, because I pitched the story a little bit, not a ton, but the story deals with like heaven and hell, but in terms of using like Christian mythology, like regular mythology. Like it's
Yeah.
it's it's not supposed to be any one way. It's not supposed to be pro or against religion.
Hmm.
But that still scares the shit out of people. So, and especially publishers, especially at this point, and with our economy probably going into a recession.
There's
Um,
a new animation called Has Been Hotel, which is about
yes,
Satan's.
I love that stuff.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that doesn't. I mean, like, it seems like maybe who knows? Maybe the tides are turning. I mean, like, if they can handle that, you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
because
and
it,
that's Busy Pop, I think, doing, because that's her whole IP and everything. So she has these animators that she has gotten from not Hasbin Hotel, but Hell of a Boss and everything, and then brought that into Hasbin Hotel. I would assume.
yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I've
Oh,
been really
I
excited about it, but I definitely need to
It's
see it.
so it's excellent. It's surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I saw it, I was like, oh well, this is too fantastic. It's not gonna
Hmm.
last. Like it's too good. But then I'm seeing it's getting good numbers. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I mean, like every once in a while, like I'm like the masses make a good choice because usually when
Yeah.
something's super brilliant, it lasts like 2-3 seasons. You know what I mean? And then you're like,
Hmm.
you kind of have to like mourn it, and then it's like a cult classic, and you're like, yay. But I would
Yeah,
have
I
enjoyed.
hope that's kind of how it goes, honestly, and especially with the way everything's kind of turning out right now. With everything, especially for artists right now, is really really difficult for them.
Yeah.
I really hope that becomes a thing again. I really hope that kind of comes back more into the light. And if it has to be done outside of Disney and any other soulless company out there, then it does. Then there it is.
Disney
So
doesn't have a soul? Oh, you've wrecked my worldview.
I know Disney's my close personal friend. No,
Yes, I go and talk to his refrigerated head nightly, or what, or no, frozen head. I don't know what it was like. What did he say?
That's my favorite, like, not controversy, like, what's the
Conspiracy.
thing where it's like, yes, that's my favorite conspiracy, is that Disney put out Frozen so that when you Google Disney Frozen, you don't come up with the Disney's Frozen head thing anymore. Isn't that great?
That is, honest to God, like that sort of that tracks for me. That really actually tracks for me because they like well. So I wonder how they're gonna fix like or when are they gonna put out like the movie like Nazi because
Yeah,
that'd be a tough one to slip in there. Be like,
yeah,
oops,
probably that one maybe might be a little bit more difficult to
yeah, like
tackle,
it's not as
but
easy to wedge
no.
in. That's
the the Disney Frozen thing, that's my favorite conspiracy theory. It's
a
just that
good one.
they made Frozen just to make it impossible, to kind of finally
Yeah, to
squash.
overshadow it because like God
Yeah.
for a while like it was pissing me off because Marjorie Taylor Greene was MTG and I'd be searching for MTG news and I'd be like, oh,
Yeah,
why am
that's
I seeing this? I don't want to see this. And so luckily she got a divorce and I'm like, well, she's just MT now, which is like, suck it. But
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I was wondering why I haven't, because yeah, same thing. Anytime I look up like MTG, yeah, all of a sudden it's just like that crap comes up, and you're like, ugh,
you're like, this is,
get your own
and
ass,
you know that she did. And that's the thing that
get
bothers me
out of
is
here.
that her team
Mhm.
did that on purpose, like because she's too stupid to do that. But somebody was like, "Ooh, that's a good one. We can take that." I was like, no. But so that's a good
I
conspiracy
wouldn't.
theory. Yeah, that's and a remarkably healthy conspiracy theory too. It's not
Yeah,
like
I was
one
gonna
where
say.
you're not accusing anybody of like eating babies. It's
No, like I've always been a pretty pragmatic person, for better or for worse. There's a few instances of me as a child. I remember I was probably, I think, 8 or 9 years old, and they were talking about Backstreet Boys, and they're like, "Oh, when I grow up, I'm gonna marry the Backstreet Boys," and I had to come in like a social wrecking ball and be like, "Listen, when you're 18, he's gonna be like 50, and he's not gonna want to deal with you anymore."
but it's
And
so
I made this
twisted.
poor
It's
girl
like
cry.
but then at the same time, it's like, then again, it might even be likely because like let's say a 50-year-old, like I'm saying, like
Yeah, no, honestly, yeah, God, yeah.
right?
Everybody's Leonardo DiCaprio out there. Yeah, no.
Oh, I know. When's it like Leonardo? Come on, like stop it. Just stop it.
uh,
Or like at least like let's put it up to a 25 now. Like maybe I don't know. It's just like,
what's that?
uh,
What's that quote where it's like, "I keep getting older and they
yeah,
keep
but they,
staying the same age."
yep,
Yeah.
I keep getting older. They stay the same age. Like that's Matthew McConaughey and Dazed and Confused. It's like literally Leonardo
Yeah, yeah,
DiCaprio.
yeah.
I'm just like,
Ugh.
I don't know, like not really graceful, but I guess,
Mm.
to each his own, as long as everything's consenting and legal, I guess I can't have a complaint. But buddy, come on. You
Oh my
just
God.
like you're like I don't even know what TikTok is. Like I just am like I don't, they're like it's trending on TikTok. I'm like, I'm not on the TikTok. I'm too old for TikTok. I can't do it. It's like,
I have a TikTok account, but only because I wanted to post comic stuff. But I posted like one little thing, and I'm like, I hate this already. I've done nothing, and I already hate this.
yeah, it's like the next social network that happens. I'm like, no. I'm
Mm.
like you can make fun of me for still being on Facebook, but you know what? I am. What can I say? I was born in 1981. I grew up in a time when there were phones connected to the walls, and then there weren't. And so, like,
Mm.
that's about it. But so that's But thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It's
Yeah,
been
no
great.
problem.
And if people want to get your stuff, if people want to buy stuff from you, where you're gonna get the most of it, like where do they go? What's the places that they should go to?
I have a Etsy that has most of my stuff on there. It is just AL Radeck Etsy. And
I'll put it in
then
the
my
notes, the show
yeah,
notes.
and I've got a just an AL. If you go alradeck.com, that'll bring you to my Shopify, but that one is woefully kind of out of date on some things. And then for Caelum Sky, you can find it. It's a CAE. It's Latin. A CAELUMSKY. And then just .com, and it'll just immediately take you to the comic page, which also then takes you to the store. So
Awesome. Thank you so much again.